I grew up in St. Charles Parish, and I went to Lakewood Elementary, and those teachers that I had at Lakewood really truly inspired me to be a teacher. So going back and being able to teach in that school and represent them really truly means a lot. I'm a different teacher now than I was when I first started. When I first started teaching, I was more concerned about the content or my schedules or making sure everything was planned out perfectly. After teaching several years, you tend to build those intentional relationships first. And after building those trusting relationships with the students, the content becomes easier for the child and the teacher. Behavior and respect all comes naturally because you truly care about the students and what they're learning and really wanting them to be successful in the classroom. I had several teachers that truly inspired me. I had Miss Wheeler, Miss Farrell, I had Miss Burford, Miss Pitchford, and Miss Dufresne, and we had Hurricane Katrina that year. And despite all of what the craziness going on, they still came to school every day and they still loved what they did. And I truly want to fulfill their legacy because when I look back at Lakewood, I remember those loving memories, and I want my students to look back and think of those loving memories as well. I'm a mom to all of those students, and so supporting my kids in anything they want to do, my students, and helping them be successful in any way I can.
My biggest fear being a teacher was not just the lesson planning and the grading, it was the behavior. It was knowing that I have to get through to these middle school students who don't necessarily want to take school seriously and try to get their interest, try to make them engaged and motivated to want to learn. So now I feel like I have to look at the big picture and I have to see what really matters. When my students look back, I hope they take away that I was giving them my absolute everything. I hope they see that I was always trying, always putting forth the effort, and just overall, I loved having them in my class. I think the most important thing for me in teaching is to just never give up, to know that you have given 100% every single day. What inspires me the most is my faith in God and also my family. I have a huge support system, and I know that I was led to become a teacher for a reason. My degree is actually in psychology, and I decided I wanted to help people, but in a different way. I wanted to use my psychology degree, and I wanted to use my love of science, my passion for science, and put them together to be the best that I could be for everyone. My hopes for the future of my students are that even if they don't learn every single thing there is to know about science in my class, that they learn how to be critical thinkers. And not only that, just being able to make decisions that involve their values that they've been taught. I know at Harry Hurst we have honor, unity, respect, self-motivation, and tolerance, but that's not just at Harry Hurst. Those are values that can help them throughout life.
What it means to be named Norco Elementary School Teacher of the Year is that I just feel very valued and loved, and I feel part of the community that has welcomed me in from my first year. How I'm a different teacher now from when I first started teaching is that I'm definitely much more confident in myself and my ability to provide the best opportunities and the best learning environment for my students. They had a year where they not only grew academically, but grew internally and grew socially with each other. What I hope for the future for all of my students is just that they're successful in whatever way, whatever route they take in life, whether it's they go to college and they get a degree, they get a job right after school, that they just believe in themselves enough and that they are internally motivated to do the best they can and be the best person that they can be. When my students look back, I hope that they are able to take away the love and the fact of feeling valued and worthy as a student in my class, that they are excited to talk back about their memories of being in my class and that it's fond memories, that they are able to believe in themselves and that I had a little piece of that effect on them. So my fourth year of teaching, I moved up to fifth grade, and at open house that night, one of my former second graders, he had walked into my room, and in the middle of my partner teacher and I kind of presenting, he walked right up to me in front of everyone. He gave me the biggest hug, and he told everyone in the room, he goes, "We're in good hands."
So for me to represent R.K. Smith as the Teacher of the Year, it means a lot. It means that I have been recognized as having something to contribute to our team at R.K. Smith. I feel like I work with such dedicated and excellent professionals. It means that as a teacher, I have done things in my classroom that are notable and that are worthy and that are valued. I have always found that going into the classroom and getting to talk to children one-on-one was like one of my favorite things to do. But when I realized how much went into being an educator coming out of Southeastern's Teachers Preparation Program, I felt like it didn't quite show me what all was involved in education. There were other things and other parts that you just have to learn by experience. And for me, that was a little bit overwhelming as a first-year teacher. And so my biggest fear was being able to be the teacher I wanted when I was in school, because that's why I came into the profession. I really wanted to be that teacher that made a difference in children's lives. And so hopefully I'm living up to that. And so one of the things that I really hope that they take away is part of our mission, is to be productive lifelong learners, to think for themselves, to question things, to wonder, and to find what they can contribute to society in a meaningful way. Teaching is probably one of the hardest professions that you could ever do. It is also one of the most rewarding when you see how children change over time and they make some steps in the right direction. And teaching gives you that opportunity. And of course, I teach at the best school in the country, so R.K. Smith, all the way.
Huntville High School has been my home for like 20 years. It's my home. And so I feel like I have the purple and gold in me. So I am so proud to represent Huntville High School. I am very personal with my students. I'm strict, but I'm also there for them when they need me. And yes, I do want them to learn Spanish and to remember it, but I also want them to remember that I was there for them, to listen to them, if they needed someone to talk to. Sometimes I forget that the kids that are in my classroom are not necessarily my kids, and my own children will say, because when I tell them something about school and I said, yeah, my kids were doing this, and my 30-year-old son will say, Mom, we are your kids. They're not your kids. I'm like, no, they are my kids as well. The reason why I decided to put my application for Teacher of the Year was really based on a last-minute decision, mainly because of the passing of my student. Layla was a normal student. She was just like full of life. But she encouraged me to do it the last day that I saw her. She's like, why don't you want to do it? And she was questioning me, and I said, well, because, I just feel like I just do my job as a teacher. I don't feel like, And she said, but Ms. Corso, you are a Teacher of the Year for us. Like all the pieces together to believe in myself that I am the best teacher that I can be.
I've been at RJVL now for 16 years, and it is my home away from home. I love it. What we've created there is truly a gem at RJVL. I mean, you can tell by when you walk in the campus that every child is unique, every child is a blessing, and being able to meet them where they're at and give them what they need to grow academically, socially, that's so important. When my students look back, I hope they remember me as a fun teacher who is passionate about math. I love math. I just hope that they take that away and they remember the good times and they remember, being pushed. I expect excellence from them, and it's about achieving success, and hopefully they look back fondly. St. Charles Parish basically helped me to fall in love with teaching again because of the opportunities I've had here and just the people and everything about it. I mean, that's inspired me to become who I am, and I've been through many changes and different things, but I still love it, and I'm going to continue to do it while I'm healthy and happy still. Yes, I love being all in. I truly do, and it's not just words. I think that's the way we grow best. That's the way we learn, to be all in. Whether it's just me all in, the students all in, we need everyone. I think when you have people around you and you surround yourself with people that motivate you, educators and children, and they want to do that. They want to succeed. I want to succeed. I want to be the best I can be for me and for my students, for our parish, for everything. I just think that it's a catchphrase, but it's a good catchphrase. We are all in.
Being able to represent St. Rose Elementary School has been a very big honor for me. When students look back and things that I hope they remember about me is, one, that I cared about them, two, that I tried to motivate them and encourage them. I tried to teach them a lot of array of different sports and activities that they could do to be healthy for their lifestyles from now until they get old. Most kids just want to be part of something, and if you could find something they can be part of, that makes everything go a lot easier. I think I'm in a very unique situation in being at St. Rose Elementary School, where I have a kid that comes in and I get the opportunity to watch that kid grow from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. Because I coach athletics at the high school, after school, I get to see those kids even grow even further, which is a remarkable situation. I look at a kid like, Kyra Moon Urson, who came to St. Rose. When she was a sophomore at Baylor, they made it to the national championship, and I had the luxury at the time of buying a plane ticket and buying a hotel room, and I went to that game. And to be in the stands, in the stadium, when one of your former kids is on the court playing basketball, is an unbelievable experience. And at the same time, Justin Jefferson, and Justin's killing it in the NFL right now, one of the best receivers in the NFL. And just to think that was a little bitty first grader in my class, but to be part of that and to see that go full fruition is unbelievable.
I didn't grow up here. I grew up in North Louisiana. I didn't even know where Des Allemands was when I graduated from college. And so to be there and for them to be like my family at this point is just so special. So it's really an honor. My biggest fear when I first started teaching was that I wouldn't have enough or know enough or be enough to give my students what they needed to be successful. Even though they're so little when they're in my class, I hope that my students remember that they belonged in my class and that they learned to love learning in my class, and that it was a safe place for them to learn how to learn and make mistakes along the way. Really hope that the children that come through my class and learn what it means to be an empathetic citizen and a kind person, that they'll go out into the world and that will stick with them and that they'll make a change because of that. With the theme of being all in, it means that you're not just doing the job of teaching, but you're really thinking about how you impact your students and all the students in your building, making sure that each of us is supporting each other as professionals as we try to help not just the students in our classroom, but the students across our grade level and across our school to have what they need and to see all that they need, their academic needs and their social emotional needs, knowing that when those social emotional needs are met, their academics, they're going to be more prepared to have their academic needs met as well.
My biggest fear when I first started teaching was that I was not going to be able to connect with the students. I found that really just building connections with them and finding out little things about them, and even just culturally that, Camden is very diverse, that there's a lot of, Muslim students, and just learning about Ramadan and all of those things just really helped me build connections with them throughout. So it was a huge fear that kind of ended up turning into one of my greatest strengths with building relationships with them. The person who inspired me to teach was Miss Sermon at Hahnville, and she really paid attention to all the little things that were going on in our lives. It just made me realize I can do that feeling for somebody else, another quiet student, I can make them feel included. So a moment that really stood out to me was this past summer at orientation. A student that I taught 6 years ago came with her little sister to orientation, and she just started crying and was telling me how much of an impact I made, and I started crying, and it just made me realize that even when I thought I was at my worst, that I was still doing something good for the students. I just hope that, when they're older, that they have, kind of figured themselves out, and that they remember, being in middle school and having a teacher there that helped them to become the person that they are, and that there was, adult in their life that genuinely cared about them as a person and not just learning the curriculum and helping them become a better person or becoming more themselves.
I am a different teacher now than I was when I first started teaching. I am much wiser because I have been able to work with amazing people over the years, and it has made me a much better teacher, a much better person. Just the wisdom that I have been able to gain from all those different relationships and experiences and challenges. So for a lot of my students, they're going to go on to really amazing things, but it all started back in my classroom in 9th or 10th grade. So I hope they remember the fun, happiness that we have in the class and just learning cool things every day. I can't tell you how many times my students are so excited to come running to me and tell me that they helped someone, whether it was in their job or the grocery store, because they could assist and communicate. My class is literally building bridges between people and between cultures. I definitely teach because of the students. I need them in my life just like they need me in my life. And they go through some very difficult times, especially as teenagers, and they need grown people that care about them and love them and listen to them and are there for them. There's generations of kids behind me now that when I do get to hear from them, or that we run into each other, or that we communicate, it made a huge difference in their life. And for a lot of them, whatever seed I planted is literally the trajectory of where their life is now. It really is an impactful profession, like hour to hour, day to day, if you make those opportunities to make that impact.
To represent Luling Elementary as Teacher of the Year is more than an honor, it's a blessing to represent the school that I love and call home. When my students look back, I hope that they take away that I was this mother character who nurtured them as a whole child, that the affirmations that we said together has helped them along the way in their lives now. I never allowed them to say that they can't do this. That was almost like a bad word in the classroom. So I hope that they continue to push themselves beyond their limits and others' expectations of them. Literacy intervention is a critical aspect to the growth of the students as a reader and a writer. No boundaries, no mistakes. You know, my hopes for the students that I teach is that they are able to break the barrier that is hindering them from becoming those successful readers, writers, critical thinkers, and use those things to help them along the way. I think as an educator, having an all-in mentality sets the foundation of what's going to be accomplished that year. We all have adversities and things that we face, students alike. We all come from different backgrounds. But when we go all in, despite of those things that we're facing, it sets the kids up for success, and then they in turn want to reflect what you're reflecting and be all in as well to meet and achieve their goals.
Mimosa Park Elementary holds a really special place in my heart. So to be able to represent such a great school and such a great community is an honor. My teaching philosophy is really built on relationships and having fun and getting the students engaged, and I feel like every day we walk in and we're just like a party. When my students look back at first grade, I hope they remember Miss Harder as someone who is energetic and someone who established a love for learning. And I also want them to remember me as someone who taught them how to persevere and how to be a hard worker. And I had this one teacher, her name was Mrs. Timmerick. She just connected with everybody. And I felt at home when I was in her classroom. So I just think back to her and how much she helped me during that time, and I just hope that I leave these students feeling the same way. I hope I instill a love for learning and maybe even a love for teaching. And maybe if I just reached out to those few students who felt it in their heart, a calling to education, and I hope that they just live happy and fulfilled lives. When you work in education, it's not just you and the students. You kind of have to have an all hands on deck, all in approach to make sure all of these students at your school are being reached. I think that's important, and making sure that we're all in, we're all one big community, helping each other get these students to where they need to be.
When I look back on great teachers I've had in the parish, I might remember reading like a easy reader book with them, or that I had to do assignments, but what I remember most about them is how they made me feel. And so that's what I hope that my students get from being with me, that they were cared for, they were loved, they felt like they were in a community in my classroom. The person who inspired me to teach the most was initially my kindergarten teacher at AA Sanji, Miss Jones. And then there's other teachers that impacted me, like Miss Jessie at Landry. There was a book that she read to us called Fat Chance, and at the time I was a teenage girl. The book that she read us talked about a child with an eating disorder, and it persuaded me to not do that with my life. So when I talk about how I want my students to think about how they felt with me, it's those instances. I want to be able to impact students like the people impacted me. Dr. Ortling, I wanted to call him Coach Ortling. He made learning fun. Like, he was inspiring to me to be a teacher. You know, we did fun review activities, or he had fun assignments. And Miss Ortling, she was one of my teachers too. She made learning fun. A moment or moments that impacted my teaching career was when I took initiative to connect with students who didn't speak the same language as me, specifically Spanish. If I could make their day a little bit better by connecting with them and speaking their language to help them understand things, then I feel like that's most impactful for them.
My biggest fear when I first started teaching was honestly that I wouldn't make a difference in the lives of my kids, or that I would not succeed. When you're a teacher, you wear many hats and you're always fulfilling lots of different duties, but here I am doing it. If I had to pick one moment that stood out in my teaching career, I had this one student who was not a strong reader, and she wasn't very confident at school. And then she would choose to come with me to practice those skills, like during enrichment or during lunch. She wanted to come in and practice. And so I think that had a great impact on her, but probably even more so me. It just felt good. All they need is love. They just need their hugs. They want their hugs. And they want to know that you're there. They want the positivity. They want to know that they are heard and that they are special, just as much as they want those hugs and they want that love and they want that smile, or they come in and they want a high five. I want to do it too. Not only for them, but for me. Last year was a really challenging year for me, and having that all-in mindset is to be all in even when it's challenging. I feel like I'm taking on more responsibility to help my team. I decided to go back to school to get my master's. I want my master's for educational leadership because I want to serve more students than what I can inside of my classroom, so that hopefully I can make a bigger impact and be all in for more than just my students, but staff too.
So to represent JB Martin as Teacher of the Year is probably the best experience I've ever had. I'm a much different teacher now than when I started first teaching. I know that relationships are important, and I know that from day one, I have to find a way to connect with those students, even the most difficult students. I've got to figure out how I can grab them and reel them in so that we can be successful together. Because if I can't let them be successful and they're not willing to trust me, they're not going to be. I have students that I taught my first year that still come to me, and they still find ways to reach out to me. And that means I did my job. I gave them my best, and I gave them everything I could to make them better people. So I had Maria Concian my sophomore year first, and she taught geometry. She was such a good teacher, and she explained it in a way that I actually understood it. And she made it real, she made it fun. And I said, that's who I'm gonna be like. I hope that my students' future is successful. I hope that they go on to find something that they love, something that they enjoy doing every day, because I found that. I found something I love to do. I hope they take their love of learning with them. I still am in the process of learning, and as I learn, I don't realize what I don't know. And so I hope they always go through life with that same outlook. You don't know everything. You're always gonna be learning something new, so take that with you as far as you can go.
To represent Ethel Scheffner as Teacher of the Year is such an honor for me. As a teacher, this is my 13th year of teaching, and I truly love what I do. I'm a different teacher now from when I first started teaching, just with the experience. I've had the pleasure of doing all of my teaching and my student teaching here in St. Charles Parish. Each and every year brings new opportunities and to learn new things. I love to set my day forward hoping to make someone smile that day, whether it is the silly things I do with my kids in class, where it's complimenting a coworker. When kids have fun learning, they're gonna remember it. It warms my heart so much when I go out into the community and I see kids that I've taught and they remember me and they're like, you were my 3rd grade teacher, you taught me when I was in 1st grade. And it's like, yes, I'm so glad you're doing great. My goal as an educator is that they continue to make those positive connections with their learning experience. That way they continue on. And to hear some of my students now say, I want to be a teacher when I grow up. So that just warms my heart that, I'm making that difference at such a young age. I actually did a new hire orientation when I worked for the Walt Disney Company. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to go back to school and be a teacher. And so my whole life changed, came back home to Louisiana, decided I wanted to go back to school, become a teacher, and here I am. And I still every day get to share that passion with what I love to do. I had an amazing mentor teacher, and she passed away a few years ago. And every day I'm like, okay, what would Lorraine think? Like, what would Lorraine say? And I'm trying to make her proud, and I know I do.